Hey there friends, Brad here from Rolling Doubles, and today we're learning how to play Rock Hard 1977. This is a super thematic worker placement game. We're going to take on the role of wannabe rock stars in the 70s. So go ahead and turn your Klingon subtitles for any rules, corrections, or clarifications, and stick around for the end of the video. We're going to go over some strategy tips for your first few games. With that, let's get started. First thing we need to do is set up the game board. So we've got over here to the side, just out of the way, we've got some of our tokens. So we have our candy and our mistwork tokens. We'll put these over there. We've also got the money, which is not real money. It looks pretty real. When I bought this game, I got it at a convention, and I was a little bit worried that I was going to have TSA check my bag for counterfeit money. It's fake, but go ahead and set that out. So that's pretty straightforward. You just get your chips, your bits, and your money set out, and then we're going to go ahead and set up things on the board. So we're just going to go around the board putting things out. So up here in the top left, we need our events, which is this deck of cards right here. You just give this a quick shuffle. Put it up there in the event spot. One thing I should also point out as we're setting this up is make sure you have the side of the board up with the correct player count. We're going to set up for a 2-player game, so we want the 2 or 3 player side of the board. The other side is for 4 and 5. It does matter because there's going to be a different number of spaces based on the number of players. So just make sure that you've got the correct side set up when you do it. So anyway, we've got our events up. Now we're going to set up our bonuses. So we're going to grab one production bonus. I'm just going to grab one randomly out of the deck here. Set that up there. We're also going to grab our performance bonus. It's going to be this deck right here. Again, we'll just grab one of these guys at random, set it up there, and then we're going to grab our publicity bonus last. So we get this other deck. We'll grab a card from this one. We'll set it up here as well. These are going to be shared goals over the course of the game. With the ones we've gotten out right now, they're actually all the same, and that they're all, when achieved, you mark them to show that you got it. There are others in the deck that we didn't happen to pull, but there are others that have an end game trigger. So you'll see these guys say at the end of the game, basically whoever has the most of something is going to get the bonus. So in this case, because we've got our bonuses set up and we're playing a 2-player game, you're going to be trying to race to be the first. So for production, it's going to be the first to play at the Panda Palace. Whoever gets there first is going to put one of their player cubes on this space and score 5 points. And because we're playing a 2-player game, only the first space counts. If we were playing a 4 or 5-player game, it would be the top 3. But because we're playing a 2 or a 3-player game, it's only going to be the first person. So anyway, we've got those set up. That's all set. We're going to need our turn order marker, or our round marker, to go up here on the calendar. So it's going to go up here in April. So we've got our turn order marker set up. Next, we're going to need to set up our random gigs. So we've got 3 decks of random gigs. They're marked A, B, and C. Here's the C deck, for example. You're going to shuffle up each of these decks, and you're going to pull 3 gigs from each deck and put them on this space. So you're going to put the C gigs on the bottom, then you're going to grab your B gigs, give them a quick shuffle. You're going to put 3 Bs on top of that. And then last but not least, I bet you can see where this is going. You're going to grab your A gigs, you're going to shuffle those up, and you're going to put 3 of those on top of that. So where you have 9 total gigs on your stack here. So pretty straightforward. Just make sure you put the C's on the bottom, the A's on the top. A couple other things we need to set out. Over here where these little plugs are, you're going to grab some crew. That's these guys right here, these little friendly looking roadie fellas. You grab some of those and just put them on these spots so they're reachable for everybody. And then over here in the hangout section, you see all these little blank guitar picks. You're going to grab your little tokens that have the numbers on them and the guitar picks on them. Now, when you're playing in a 2-player game or 3-player game, it's important to remember to grab 7 through 11, and that your 10 has a little 1-star on it and your 11 has a little 2-star on it. The 10s and 11 tokens are different. When you have more players, you put out 12 tokens, and then the numbers on these are a little bit different in terms of points. So just make sure if you're playing 2 or 3, to start with a 7, go to 11, and that you got a 1 and a 2 in there. So we're going to take these guys, turn face down, and we're going to randomly assign them to the various hangout spots over here face up. So let's go ahead and put these guys out super quick. And then the last thing we're going to need to do on the main game board is we're going to have to set out our Sugar Rush and our Hangouts. Sugar Rush, again, you just grab this deck of cards. Once again, just shuffle it, you know, like you do with cards. Put it down here in the corner. And then for your Hangouts, you have individual ones for each of the different icons. So like up here, you have the flame icon. So you're going to grab the deck with the little flame up here on the top right, shuffle that, set it out. And then you're going to do the same for each other. So we've got the lips over here at backstage. We've got the cameras over here at Jack's. We've got the little glasses down here at Hoover's. And then the phone down here at Bud's. So that's everything you're gonna need to set up the main game board. Next, we're gonna set up our player board. I love the player boards in this game because you've got these cool amps that basically measure all of your different stats and keep track of everything for you. So these just by themselves are amazing. The first thing you're gonna need to do when you're setting this up is pick a character. Now there's a couple ways you can do this. The way the rule book recommends is you take these character cards, shuffle them up and deal 2 to each player and then let them pick one of the 2 to keep. I don't love doing it that way because every character has an asymmetrical power. So what I like to do is just give people the actual player mats. So I shuffle all these up, there's a whole stack over there, shuffle them all up and then give them to the players and let everyone pick who they want to be based on the 2 they get. So in this case, I've got BB Rose, the Toonsmith, I've got Leo Love, the Showman. I mean, I do love a good bass player, so we're gonna be Leo. So we're gonna grab Leo, we're gonna put him in my amp. So there he is, he goes there. We're also gonna get our standee in our bass. So here's Leo. Let's see if we can get, there we go, there's Leo. I'm playing as blue, so we put in the blue bass. So we got our Leo standee. He's pretty great. We're also gonna get a few other things. We're gonna take one of our player cubes right here, these guys, put it in the lowest space on the royalty track, so you'll be on the 0. We're gonna take our little on-off switch, so we got a green to red on-off side. We're gonna put the off side face up in this little slot over here. We'll talk about what that does as we get a little bit further into the game. We're gonna grab our guitar pick. This is our turn order marker. Once we determine turn order, we're gonna put this out on the main player board to show where we're at in turn order. And then we're also gonna take our fame token, our fame marker, put that on the main board as well to track our score over the course of the game. So we've got a few more things. We're gonna have some leftover cubes. So you're gonna use these guys. Just put these in a supply nearby where you can get to them. You're also gonna have a couple other pieces. You've got your demo tape and your record deal. These you can either put by the main board or you can put them somewhere off the side of your player board, totally up to you. And then we got a couple other things we need to do to set up to get ready for the start of the game. So the first thing we're gonna need to do is we're gonna need to figure out what our personal goals are. So we're gonna take this personal goals deck, we're gonna shuffle it up and we're gonna draw 3 cards for each player off the top. This is gonna show you what your goals are for the course of the game. Sometimes they are one-time thing, you have to do something once and then you'll get the points. Sometimes you have to do something multiple times. That's one of the reasons you might use your cubes, is you might be tracking this over the course of the game to determine how close you are to finishing your personal goal. But either way, you're gonna pick 2 of these and then put the other one back on the bottom of the deck. You keep these secret until either you complete them in the case where it's like a one-time goal, or when you start to work on another personal goal that's multiple steps, you'll just put that out by your player board and then mark it, and then at that point it becomes information, public information that everybody can see. So you'll do your player goal, your personal goals. We'll put these over here face down just to show that we've done them. We'll put Leo on this, nobody's tempted to peek at them. You're gonna need, sadly, until you become a rock star, to get a job. I know, nobody wants having a job. We all hate having jobs, but you have to get one. So you're gonna draw 2 jobs off the top of the deck, and you're basically gonna pick one to keep that's gonna become your job. Now there's a few things about these cards that you need to know. The top is what time of day you have to work your job. We'll get into times of day and different activities and actions as we get into the game, but that's gonna be when you have to go to work. The middle section is how much you're gonna get paid to do your job. Some jobs have basically a steady pay rate. Some jobs will have you roll the die to determine what you're gonna get paid. So you'll just roll this guy every time you go to work to see what you're gonna get paid. And then if they have any special ability, they're down here at the bottom. Some jobs also have variable shifts. So like how this card will have you roll the die to determine how much money you make. If you had the executive assistant card, you would roll the die to determine when you go to work. So this can be a little bit hard to keep track of. One thing we like to do when we play is when you roll the die, after you see what number you got, is just put a cube on that time of day if you have one available, so you know, like, oh, I need to go work late night this round if I want to go do my job. So just a little tip to kind of help things, keep things organized. But anyway, you're going to pick one of the 2 jobs you get dealt. You're going to place it over professional musician because, you know, you're not a professional musician yet. One of these days, maybe. And then that way you have your job assigned. Next thing you need to do is you need to have some life experiences. These are basically starter cards. They're going to help you with some icons, some set collection later in the game. But you're going to draw 2 from the top of the deck. And if you have different icons, then you're all set. Those are your starter cards. You can read the flavor text here if you want to get a sense of kind of your background and what inspired you to become a professional musician. So you can do that. In the event you get 2 cards with the same icon when you draw, you just discard one of them and then draw again until you have 2 different icons. The actual text of the card doesn't do anything. All that matters in these cases are the icons. So just keep drawing until you have 2 different icons. And then the last thing you're going to need to do is you're going to hire a manager. Every good musician needs a manager. Whether they're a good manager or not remains to be seen. So we're going to take the manager cards. We're going to deal out managers equal to the number of players. So we're playing a 2-player game. We're going to need 2 managers. You're going to go in reverse player order. So if I'm the first player in this game, then my opponent is going to go first, picking a manager, and neither one of them wanted to stay in my hand. So let's say my opponent decided they wanted to be managed by Nigel. They would take him, put him on their player board, and I will take Tommy and put him here on mine. So you got all of your pieces set up, you got your goals, you've got your board set up, you got your pieces off to the side, you got some pieces up on the game board. That's everything you need to get set up for the game, so let's get started on how you actually play this thing. All right, we're about ready to start the game, but a couple last things to do before we get going. If you're playing a 2-player game, you're going to need to have the little rising star sheet out here because this is going to act as sort of a blocking player over the course of the game. This is mandatory for 2 players, it's optional for 3. So to give you a quick example of how this works, in April, which is the first month of the game, we're going to put 3 cubes out of a neutral player color as I throw the cubes on the board. 3 cubes of neutral player color out on the 3 spaces listed. So in this case, we're going to put 1 on the radio interview over here, 1 on rehearsal studio B in the middle there, and then 1 on the backstage hangout down here in this section. Just, again, according to what this thing tells us to do for the given month. So that's only if you're playing for 2 players as a mandatory, optional for 3. And the last thing you're going to do, no matter how many players you have, is you're going to flip over your round events and gigs. So we've got our events deck up here. We're going to take this, flip over the top card, and show that it is inspiration is in the air. You feel like Mozart with all this music coming out of you. You swear like him too. You get +1 song the first time you write a song this round. So this is going to be an ongoing event that's going to happen. Might affect your strategy, might affect what you want to do over the course of the round. And then we're also going to flip over our first gig. This is a trade show you can go play at. It says basically you got a little flavor text and you can immediately take the hire crew action, ignoring anyone else who's there. So again, this is a little special event that's only going to happen for this round. It's a little bit rule breaky, so it's something you can do in addition to your normal actions. So with that, we're all set up, ready to go. So welcome to Rock Hard 1977. The goal of this game is to be the biggest rock star by the time the year ends. You've got some various wannabe rockers competing for their spot in their place in the spotlight. The game is going to be played over a number of rounds, so either we're going to go all the way through to December and the game will end after December, or the game ends when somebody gets their score track on the fame meter all the way down to 50 or past that. At that point, the game will end at the end of that round, even if we haven't played all the months yet. So it's a little bit of a race to 50. It also can just be a number of like 9 rounds until you get to the end of the game. The way the game is going to work is that every round consists of 3 phases. You have a daytime phase, a nighttime phase, and a late night phase. And this becomes essentially a worker placement game where you place your worker and then you take an action. So for instance, if I were going to, we start in the daytime column. If I wanted to hire an indie promo, I would go here, I would pay the money, and I would get a reward. So the way to read these different spaces is, some things have a requirement, like this needs a record deal, this needs a demo tape or a record deal, also needs some money. The interview doesn't have any requirements, but it's currently blocked because someone's there. Studio A would cost $1, but I would get a microphone. And then you got your crew down here that each cost varying amounts of money. This is a little bit confusing for new players, so the way to read this is if you place your standee on this first spot, then and you're hiring a crew member, if it's your first crew member, they would cost you $1. So I get this guy and I have to pay $1 for my supply out into the payment to get that guy. If it's my second crew member and I'm in this spot, it would cost me $3. If it was my third crew member, he would cost me $5. So that's the way to read that. But also you see there's these other spots here with different numbers in them. This is essentially a way to still get crew even if the spaces become blocked. So let's say my opponent goes here instead and hires crew. I can't go there, they're already there. So instead I could go here and pay $2 for my first crew member, or 4 or 6, or if they were all blocked up, I come down here, pay 3, 5, or 7. So this one basically, the further down you go, the more expensive they are, and the more crew you need to hire, the more expensive they get. So that's how those spaces work. They're a little bit unique. No other spaces are like them in the game. It's just kind of a special thing that happens there. Also, you've got some other options down here. You can get a record deal. These are the requirements to get a record deal. So you need like a demo tape, and then you need some different levels of your different attributes. So let me grab my board here and show you. Like for example, on a record deal, I need 3 microphone, which is 3 chops, 3 popularity, 3 songs. You'll see I start the game with 2 chops, 2 reputation, 2 songs. So I'm not there yet, but eventually, and I also have a record deal or demo tape, but eventually you can go here. Recovery is a special space. We'll get to this when we talk about candy and what happens when you get addicted to candy. So yeah, that's that guy. And then up here we've got the Studio A, cost you $1, you get 1 chops. The way it works whenever you receive something, so let's say we went up here to Studio A and I paid my $1 that I had to gain my chops, then I would take my amazing, awesome player board and I would just crank that dial up to the next space. You'll notice all the dials go to 11 because 11 is 1 louder than 10. So yeah, it's really simple. You just go to a space, you pay whatever is in red, you get whatever's in black. If there's a green icon somewhere on the space, then that means it's a requirement before you're allowed to go there. Any space that is kind of small like this, you can only have 1 player in. Some spaces, like you'll see next to recover here, have this little infinity symbol. That means as many players as you want can go there. Anytime 2 players go there, you just bump the person you're next to over a little bit because you're the star. You have to go center stage. They need to move out of the way. So yeah, infinity signs mean all players can go there. If they don't have that, then it's just 1 person and then it gets blocked. So that's how it's going to work over all 3 rounds, but we're going to do daytime first, then we're going to move to nighttime. Nighttime has a few requirements as well. So for example, you'll see microphone, you need at least 3 chops to play TJs, but if you do, you're going to get a reputation, and then stars are basically fame victory points. So you get to take your victory point marker and move it up to 1. Same idea for the Fox's Den, or every round, like I said, we're going to have this special, unique gig you can play. This will change each round, but that'll give you some things you can do as well. Otherwise, the shows are going to be just bigger and more rewarding. So you'll see that these have higher requirements. You need 4 chops or 5 reputation and 3 songs. And this little thing with the plug means that you're going to need crew. As you're playing bigger venues, you need someone to lug your amps and run the lights and do the soundboard and all that sort of thing. So for example, the Panda Palace requires you have hired at least 1 crew before you get there. The Yenser Arena requires 2 crew, and then Carter Stadium, the big guy, requires a whole bunch of things, but also 3 crew and a record deal. You'll only ever hire at most 3 crew, so you'll only ever need to hire 3 times. In fact, you should just put out as many crew as there are players to have 3. So like in this case, for a 2-player game, I put out 6 crew. Just makes it easier to know whenever you don't need to hire anymore. So that's nighttime. You're basically playing shows at night. And then after hours, you can do a few things. You could go to bed early. Kind of lame. We'll talk about why you might want to go to bed early. But for the most part, why go to bed when there's rocking to do? You could go to the recorded record demo. So you could go get your demo tape. So if you had $3, you go over here, record a demo. That would give you your demo tape. You can put that on your player board, you can put that nearby so you know that you have it, but basically that unlocks your ability to come later and get a record deal. So you can go get your tape, or you can be a true rock star and just hang out and go do stuff and go to the clubs and go see the paparazzi or whatever, go hang out somewhere. So anytime you go to one of these spaces down here, you're going to draw the top card of the deck. It will typically give you some kind of an event that will give you a reward. So like this one, recognized by a DJ, you get 1 fame and 1 reputation the next time you interview at the radio station or hire an indie promo artist. So whenever this happens, you'll get these rewards. You also will get this icon to add to the ones you had at the start of the game. The reason these icons are important is it becomes a bit of a set collection game. So when you have either 4 of the same icon, so whenever I've gotten a couple more of these guys, so when I have 4 of the same, or when you have 4 different icons, so let's grab a couple here to show you what that might look like. So if I had 4 different icons, at that point you've made a set. When you do that, you just squish them all together, and then you immediately get 5 points on the fame track. Now, some of these cards will have things that happen after the fact, like the one I showed you a minute ago was when you go, for example, this guy, when you go to a certain space, you get a reward. Even after you've collapsed cards down into a set, you can still activate them. You just can't add any more cards to that set, and that set can't be used more than once. So these cards are essentially all together. They're a set. I would put them off to the side somewhere, and I would start collecting a new set of new cards every time I visit other places down here in the hangout zone. So that's what those do. The one special one up here is if you go to Slinkies, it's got this little multicolored icon. That's basically the wild icon. There's no real event here, there's just some flavor text, so you don't get a bonus for going there, but you do get the ability to turn this into any of the icons for the purposes of your set collection. So it could be any of the other 4 icons. The other thing to note about the hangout area is the guitar picks down here and their numbers. So some of them, like the 10 and the 11, are going to give you extra points. So if you go to the space with the 10, you're going to get 1 point, which is where I happen to go. If you went to the space with the 11, you would get 2 points. There's that little tiny 2 down in the corner down there. So that's what those do. And then also the numbers determine turn order for the next round. So this is why you might choose to go to bed early, because it guarantees you're going to go first in the next round, and therefore when it's daytime happens again, you're going to get first crack at what you want to go do. So maybe my opponent goes to bed early so they can be first. I'm down here, I got a 10, so I'm going to be late. So we go reset for the next round. They're going to get to go first. You can all go to bed early if you want to, in which case you just keep bumping people over, so whoever's the leftmost person will get the benefit, and then the next person, and so on. Once you complete all 3 phases, we'll go to cleanup. Before we talk about that though, real quick, we also have these anytime actions. So these can be done no matter what phase you're in, so daytime, nighttime, or late night. Let's say my opponent went here to the studio and I wanted to go there during the daytime. I'm kind of stuck, so I could go up here and donate blood instead and make $1. These are all unlimited, so everyone can do them as many times as they want to over the course of the day. So like I could donate blood, then we take our people back for the next day. I could go for the next phase, I could write a song, I could donate blood again. Yeah, these are always available no matter what time of day it is. So also you'll note there's a space over here for working. So if you look at your job, so let's say I rolled my die, I have to go to work 5 or 6 during late night. So when my opponent is hanging out, having fun, I am probably gonna go over here and go to work instead, which is not as much fun, but you do what you gotta do. You do have the option to skip work. So let's say it was late night and I didn't want to go to work, I want to hang out, I want to go to Jack's. I don't want to do my dumb job. I don't want to get paid $2. It seems terrible. You do have the option to do that. If you miss work, then you have to take one of these missed work tokens, just put it somewhere on your player board. So like, let me grab this and put it on camera. I stick it right over my face. That's kind of mean. We'll put it over here. There we go. Put one of these on your board. If you ever acquire 3 of these over the course of the game, you get fired, you lose your job, and now you've lost your source of income. So maybe don't be too irresponsible, at least not until your music career takes off, because otherwise you might find yourself running out of money super fast. So yeah, there you go. You have all that. That's how you play around. And next we'll go over how you will reset between the rounds and what you need to do to prep for the next one. After you complete all 3 phases, you do the end of the round steps. So the first thing you're going to do when you do that is check to see if you get any royalties. So you're going to pull out your player board here, take a look at your royalties track. Right now at the start of the game, I don't get royalties, so I get nothing for that. Later on, once I get a record deal, I'll move it up and I would get $2. And if you continue to renegotiate your royalties by going over here to the record deal space over the course of the game, this can go up a little bit more each time, to where at the end you might be making $5 a round and get 2 points. So pretty good thing. But right now I don't get any royalties, so I just skip that part. You're also going to, on certain months, pay your manager. Now you don't have to pay them in April or May, but at the end of June, you owe your manager $1. September you owe them $3. December you owe them $5. So they get a little bit more expensive as the year goes on. So you pay them from your supply, however much you owe them. So in this case, I would owe $1 to old Tommy Rock here, pay him that. If you can't pay your manager, then you lose 3 points for every $1 you can't pay. So if it was June and I couldn't pay the manager and it's getting ready to go in July, I would lose 3 points and then call it a day. If it were, let's say it were September and I owed him $3 and I didn't have any money, I'd lose 9 points. I don't even have 9 points, so I'd just go back down to 0 and I'd be doing a very bad job. So always pay your manager if you can, very important. If you used your manager over the course of the round, you're gonna turn them sideways. So at this point, once you finish the round, either whether you paid them or not, you'll just turn them back, straighten them out so that they're ready to go for the next round. Then you determine the turn order. So again, you're gonna look at where did everyone end over here in the hangout section, or maybe up here in the anytime actions. You'll see there's some picks, some guitar picks up here with numbers on them. In this example, my opponent went to bed early, so they're gonna go first. I went to hang out at Jax's, so I'm not gonna go first, obviously. So we're just gonna take our guitar picks, flip them around here to show the new turn order, and then that way we'll know for the next round who's going first, who's going second. You'll take back your little characters, so we'll move those off the board. And then because we are playing with the 2-player version of the game, you're also going to move the Rising Star to their new spaces. So in this case, they're going to go to Rehearsal Studio A, they're going to go play TJ's, and then they're going to go hang out at Hoover's, just like that. And then we will also get ready for next round, discard the current random gig, flip over a new one. We'll discard the current event, flip over a new one, and then we're ready to go. Now there are a couple other little things we'll have to do. One is we need to reshuffle these tiles so they don't stay the same every time. So we'll go ahead and give these guys a shuffle. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to check to see if anybody has low blood sugar from a candy crash. We haven't talked about that exactly yet, so we're going to save that for a little bit later. But if someone had crashed because of low blood sugar, you would also check for that right now as well. But otherwise, once you've done all these things, so new events, new turn order, new organization of the little guitar picks, move the Rising Star if you're playing a 2-player game, and then take back your standees for your characters, you are ready to go on to the next round. Now, the thing we haven't talked about yet that's super important in this game is that sweet, sweet candy. So next we're going to talk about how that works and how that's going to either make your game a lot better or, oh boy, is it going to bring you down. So look, sometimes a rock star needs a little bit extra something to get them through the day. So in that case, you're going to need a little bit of candy. Now, candy is going to do a few things. One is you're going to pay your candy, then you're going to draw from the Sugar Rush deck to see what happens. So normally when you draw from Sugar Rush, you're going to draw a soft candy. This is what most of the cards in the deck are. It's going to do a couple things for you. It's going to, one, give you a bonus action that you're going to get to take during your current phase. So if it's daytime, you'll take another daytime action or an anytime action. Nighttime, you take 2 nighttime actions or 2 late night actions, again, depending on the phase. But also it's going to probably, depending on which candy you draw, increase your cravings. So we'll go over that super quick. So whenever you increase your cravings, you are going to grab your little player mat here. You're going to take your craving dial and you're going to crank it up to the next number. Then you're going to roll the die to see whether or not you have a sugar crash. Now, the goal is to roll either a number equal to, actually a really good example, equal to or higher than your current craving, you're fine. So I rolled a 1, but thankfully the first taste is free. You're okay. But if my craving was a 2 and I rolled the 1, that's not good. I'm going to have a sugar crash. So if that happens, I need to flip over my little marker here to the red side. That's not good. And then some consequences are going to come to my actions later on in the round. But for now, we're living that high. So during this phase, let's say I was doing it in the daytime, I would get to take my character, after I take my first action, I could then, because I drew my soft candy here, I could take a second action. So maybe I want to go up to up here somewhere and I want to write a song as my second action. Yeah, I could do that. And then my turn ends after I've done both those things. There are a couple other kinds of candy you might run into. One is you've got your hard candy, which gives you 2 extra actions at the cost of 1 craving, but you know, you got to watch out for the hard stuff. It's going to eventually come back and get you. Or you might get kind of a bum deal and get a sugar-free candy where you get no bonus actions, but you also don't increase your cravings. So, you know, somebody sold you some bad candy. Nothing really happens there. Kind of a bummer. So that's basically the way candy works, but there are some exceptions. Any space you see that has this little no candy icon, so like most of the venues where you play shows, sometimes like over here if you go to bed early, work, places like that, are basically places you can't go as a like bonus candy action. So for example, if it were nighttime, I played a show at the Fox's Den, I couldn't then use candy to go play another show at a different arena. That's not how that works. It doesn't go that way. So your first action of the round, you can go anywhere you want, whether you're using candy or not. So you can always just play a show like at the Panda Palace, and then if you're taking some candy, you could go up here and write a song after you're done. So you've got those options. You can't basically like go to Panda Palace and then go to work, but what you could do is you could go to work and then go buy some more candy, because that's what you do after work, I guess. So yeah, you just have to kind of keep an eye out for these little spaces on the board that tell you where you can't use the benefits of candy, basically. But for the most part, you know, it's a way to get bonus actions over the course of the game. We'll talk a little bit about in the strategy section when to use candy and when you shouldn't use candy. But the one thing we should also discuss before we move off this is the consequences of candy, because not everything is sunshine and lollipops, literally. If you, at the end of the round, have flipped your craving over, then that means that you're going to have a sugar crash. So that's not great. But the start of the next round, so let's say we're in April, we get to May, if you've had a crash, then the first thing you have to do is you have to go recover. Don't call it rehab, it's recovery, they're different. When you go to recover, you will turn your craving knob down one space. So I would go from like a 2 to 1, and you'll flip your little marker back over to its green side to show that you know what, you're not on candy anymore. You cleaned up. It's fine. You don't need any more help. People can leave you alone. It's okay. Don't worry about it. So yeah, that's that space. You can also choose to go to recover if you think you have a candy problem and it's getting maybe close to the end of the game and you're worried about having too much craving. So like if your craving is up here at like the 4 or the 5 range, like, oh man, I'm really testing my luck. Maybe I should see somebody. Then you can go voluntarily to recovery to knock it down a notch. So that's an option. Also worth noting that whenever you finish a round, if you have taken cards out that time for anyone to use candy that round, you'll shuffle the whole deck back up and put it back on the board. There's only one sugar-free candy and one hard candy in this deck. So this just makes it so where in future rounds, if someone draws the sugar-free or draws the hard candy, it doesn't preclude the other players from doing it in this future round. It just keeps the deck fresh every time. So yeah, that's candy. It can be really useful, but it can be real dangerous. The other thing to know about candy is if you get hooked on the candy in the last round, so let's say you have a really high craving, you roll and you sugar crash and it's the last round of the game, because you can't go to rehab at the start of the next round, because there isn't a next round, you're going to lose points instead. So try not to get hooked on candy in the game. It's very bad. So yeah, that is how that works. Next, we're going to go to end of the game and score. So there are 2 ways for the game to end, which I mentioned at the beginning of the video. One is if somebody reaches 50 points, then the game ends at the end of the current month or the current round. The other one is if no one gets to 50, then the game ends after December once you finish your upkeep. So once you've done your last thing in December, maybe we both went to bed early because we're lame. Not a good way to end the game, but just for example, you'll go through all the end game steps, including paying your manager. So in this case, I would owe my manager $5. I sure hope he was worth it. And then you'll kind of finish everything out and you'll determine any end game scoring or any like remaining points to be figured out at the end. So if any of these bonuses are end game, then you'll check for that now. We drew all basically like during the game bonuses, but we're going to swap one out here just for the sake of examples. So we're going to grab this publicity bonus of collecting the most wild symbols over the course of the game. So I look at all of my cards I've collected over the course of the game. I have one with a wild symbol. My opponent will say has none because I didn't get that many cards. So then I would get to claim this reward for 5 points. So 1, 2, 3, just circle back around, 4 and 5. So you would do any of these guys that have an end game bonus on them. You would then check your personal goals to see if any of those are end game. Mine were not. They were both during the game goals that I didn't happen to complete, so I wouldn't get any points for that. But kind of the same as the shared goals. If any of your personal goals are end game, then you'll score those here. You're also going to score any of your final little attributes here that reach 11. When you get anything to 11, you get rewarded. So anytime you get something to 11, at the end of the game, you get 2 extra points. So I would go 2 more. If you get everybody to 11, so let's just crank everyone up to 11 here. If you get all 3 of them to 11, then in addition to the 2 points you get for each of them, you get 2 more points as a bonus for having all 3. So you can get up to 8 points if you crank all your stats. So there's that one, and the last thing you're going to check for is leftover money. Every $3 is worth 1 point, so in this case I would get 1 point for $3. And then that's it. That's how you determine the winner of the game. If there's a tie, then you go over there's a few tiebreakers. First is reputation, so you'll check that. Second is the most cash on hand, so you check that to see who has the most money left over. And then if that's still a tie, you see who has the highest royalties, so you go check this thing. If it's still a tie after all that, then everyone's a rock star. You all win, and it's great and wonderful and fantastic. And that is Rock Hard 1977. All right, now it's time to give you some strategy tips for your first few games. The first one's what I like to call the royalty rush. And basically that is your first strategy should be as early in the game as possible, so starting in April, and then as quickly as you can to rush to get a record deal so you can start getting your royalties. So what you're gonna need to do to get a record deal is you're gonna need to first get a demo tape. So you need $3. So you need to find a way to make $3 as fast as you can. That might just be working your job. Most jobs pay a base of $2. Some pay more. Sometimes they pay less depending if you have to roll dice, but that's one way to get it. You can donate blood for $1 a pop, so there's that option. If you have any candy, you can sell it to make money, so that's another option. But essentially, you're going to want to get the $3 as fast as you can. You're also going to need at least 3 chops, 3 reputation, and 3 songs, which means you're going to have to up all your base stats by at least 1 in order to be able to do this. So a couple ways you can do that. Interviews get you more popular, or get you more reputation. Things like going to the studio for rehearsal get you more chops. Writing a song gets you more songs. There might also be events that are up, for example, or gigs that could help you get more songs. Sometimes when you draw one of these cards, they'll give you a song or chops or something, so a reputation. There's different ways to get it. The most reliable way is to come do interviews, studio time, and writing a song. But that's going to take you potentially 1 entire round and maybe then some, because you're going to need the money also to get the demo tape, but whatever. The point being, as fast as you can get it, get your demo tape, and then try the next round if possible to get over here to getting a record deal, because once you do that, you start getting royalties. So in this case, even your first one, once you get your record deal, you've got your awesome record now. Just by going up to level 1, you can then make $2 a round, which is usually equivalent to what you're going to make working for most of the characters. You also, once you have a record deal, as you continue to progress your abilities, can then go back and renegotiate your record deal for more money. So once you get down here where you have 5 chops, 5 reputation, 5 songs, then you get to up your royalties another level, and you're going to start making $3 every round, and you're going to get a point. And then last but not least, $5 and 2 points every single round if you max out your royalty track. So the faster you do this, the more money you're going to make, the more points you're going to get. This is ongoing, so you're going to get points and money every single round. So definitely try and rush through this as quick as you can. Another thing I get asked about a lot in this game is, how important is it to go to work? Do I really need to go do my job? So you're going to find that most of the jobs don't pay super well, but they're also the only steady source of income for the early part of the game. So like for this one, this job pays $2 every time I go to work. I can work once per month basically, which is a weird job to have. You'll have to go to work once a month. But I would say for at least the first couple rounds, it's probably going to be a good idea to go do your job, unless there's something really compelling reason not to, like there's a really good record deal or a really good show in this space, or the event for some reason really compels you not to go do it. I would say at least go do your job for maybe a couple months to kind of build up a little bit of bank until you get your record deal. Once you've got your record deal, you can immediately quit your job. You don't need it anymore. I never go back to my job once I have my record deal, unless I'm just really hard up for money, in which case I probably made a mistake strategically somewhere in the game. So once you get a record deal, you're a professional musician, like you don't need this job anymore. You get it out of here. Also remember that you don't have to go to work. You can just miss work and take one of these little missed work tokens onto your player board, and you get 3 of these before you get fired from your job. So what you can do is get your record deal, hang on to your job for a little while, and if you have rounds where you need money, go do it. And if you don't have rounds where you need money, just take the missed work token. And then after 3 of these guys, you get fired anyway. So at that point, you can't go back to your job, but it buys you some time. So I would say like that's another option, is like you don't have to ever quit. You can just let it kind of run itself out, and eventually you'll get fired. You don't get severance, which is kind of a bummer, but it gives you more time in case you just need that cushion of like, I could go back to work and get some more money if I needed it, but for the most part, I'm going to rely on my royalties to do what I need to do. So that's one thing you do in terms of how to manage the job. One other really important piece of advice is how you handle candy. So candy can be, like I said earlier in the video, really, really useful, really powerful, or it can absolutely crush your game if you play it wrong. So how do you manage this effectively to get the most out of it, but also to not crash too hard? So a couple tips on that. One is, when you use your candy, what I like to recommend is, if you have money, use candy when you have money, so you can go up here to the buy or sell candy space, and you can buy up to 3 more candy. So if you have money on hand, again, if you have leftover cash, then I could spend $3, I can get 3 more candy, and now I'm basically set for future rounds, but I still have my second action. So I could go, do something else. I could go write a song, or I could do something. If it was daytime, I could go do an interview or rehearse or whatever. But I would say, yeah, whenever you can, if you are if you're on a candy action, first things first, try to get more if you have the money to do it. Also, if you can wait to take candy when you have the cash to buy more candy, that's really helpful too. Or if maybe you've got a surplus because you've done some shows or done some events that give you more candy, like wait till you have a little bit in your bank. Otherwise, you're just basically trading out 1-to-1, you're not really getting any benefit. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The other thing to keep in mind is how to manage your cravings. So this thing, because it's die driven, it can be wild. You never quite know. I will usually let my cravings go up to a 3 or a 4 before I start worrying about dropping off. But once you get above a 4, you need to probably go voluntarily to recovery because you're going to crash out. And the worst thing that can happen is crashing out in the last round of the game. Don't crash out in the last round of the game. I've seen people lose because of that. Don't let that be you. And there you have it. That is Rock Hard. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, like, subscribe, do all the things you're supposed to do in a YouTube channel, and check out some of our other how to play videos. They're going to pop up on the little playlist over here. But until next time, have fun and good game.